Hello, everybody. In this message, I'd like to talk to you about what I'm going to refer to as the phenomenal reality. Now, we have senses. We can see, we can hear, we can touch, we can taste. And those senses provide information about the external world to our brains. And then our brains create what I, again, refer to as the phenomenal reality. It's nothing more than the subject of our consciousness. It's the world that we are aware of directly and we live in. It is not an exact replica of what the scientific information is. For example, if there's an object, a cup or some object that I can hold in my hand and it's colored red, my phenomenal reality shows me the red. But the cup is really not red. It simply scientifically reflects the longer wavelengths. And on the other hand, if the cup were blue, that would indicate to me that it reflects the shorter wavelengths. Now, are the blue and the red real? They are psychologically real, but they're not out there in the real world. There are no real colors in the world. There are wavelengths. There's electromagnetism, and there's the light waves and so on, and photons. But the phenomenal reality, although it does not portray an exact scientific image of the world, it is constructed in such a way that it helps us navigate the world that we live in. For example, there are many solid objects that we can feel around us, a desk, a chair, and so on. Are they really solid? Well, scientifically, they're mostly empty space. Yes, they are. It's mostly empty space, but that would help us navigate. We need to see solidity where it's important for us, because if we push our hands into a solid object, the object will push back. It's not a solid, but it has strong forces to push back on an impact like that. So again, the point is that our phenomenal reality is a psychic reality. It's psychological, and it helps us navigate the world. Now, very important, in that psychic reality, there is a sense of a self. There is a conscious self that is experiencing the red, the green, or listening to a beautiful piece of music and so on. There is a conscious self that is part of our phenomenal reality. Now, is that really us? I have to say no. Again, it is the brain portraying our sensing and our experience of phenomenal reality. So it's a picture. It's a brain painting a picture of the self involved in those perceptions. Now, you have questions like, well, if that's not myself, what is myself? Well, Freud had a distinction of three egos: the id, which is the one that seeks sensual things; the conscious ego, which is, I think, very much the same as, excuse me, as ours, phenomenal ego. And then he has the the super ego, which is the ego in Freud's mind that makes moral judgments and so forth. I would say the Freud superego, that is us. That is our true ego. And if we looked at everything from the point of view of freedom, leaving the id aside, I'm not going to address that. But the conscious ego, the phenomenal ego, is that free? I don't believe so because, again, it's not real. It's not really us. It's a picture that the brain creates so that we'll be aware of ourselves as we're having conscious perceptions. Uh, again, the is it's not free because it's not real, and so that's not our real ego. At the highest level, the superego, yes, I believe that can, you see, that ego can back away from any particular situation which involves our decision making. It can back away and say, oh, I want to go a different direction, or I don't want to pursue this right now, or whatever. But the superego is free. It is our ego. It can make free choices, and there's where we're not responsible for what the brain portrays to us. Well, to show that the conscious ego differs, or the phenomenal ego differs from the superego, Lebet had a number of experiments where the subject was asked to just randomly push a button, and then they had electrodes on the head where they could determine whether there were any signals occurring during that event. And it turned out that there is a signal that comes from the brain, but it's a very, very short time before we actually are experiencing our own conscious decision of pushing the button. So in other words, it looks like the brain, it's a random phenomenon. It's not something very important, but the brain makes the decision to push the button, and then subsequently, it's a very short time later, we are then aware of ourselves pushing the button. So that many people use that as a proof that there's no such thing as free will, but I don't believe that is a proof, because that's not a real ego there. And the superego is the real ego. Again, don't lose any sleep. This is kind of deep, but don't worry about it. And thank you for listening. Bye.